A horse almost ran the Roman Empire, not as a mascot, not as a ceremonial figurehead, as a consul, the second highest elected office in the most powerful government on earth. And the man who suggested this wasn't joking. He was making a point. The point was that the Roman Senate was so useless, a four-legged hay-burner could do their job. How does this happen? How does a civilization that built aqueducts, codified law, and conquered the known world get to the point where a horse is being measured for a senator's toga? You want the answer. It starts with a dead hero, an island full of sex criminals, and a 24-year-old who had absolutely nothing left to believe in. Meet Gaius Julius Caesar Germanicus, born AD 12. His dad is Germanicus, think Roman royalty, mixed with war hero, mixed with the most beloved man in the empire. His mom is Agrippina the Elder, granddaughter of Augustus himself, which is like being the grandkid of God and George Washington at the same time. This kid has the strongest bloodline in Western history. He's the living embodiment of Roman exceptionalism. And when he's 7 years old, his dad dies in suspicious circumstances in Antioch. Poisoned, probably. The official story is natural causes. Nobody believes it. The emperor at the time is Tiberius Germanicus's adoptive father and biological uncle. If you're keeping score at home, that means Caligula's uncle-grandfather probably murdered his dad. Welcome to Roman family dinners. Germanicus's death creates a blood feud. His widow Agrippina accuses Tiberius openly. Tiberius responds the way paranoid emperors do, by destroying everyone she loves. 2 of Caligula's brothers die in prison or exile. His mother gets banished and starves to death. His grandmother on his mom's side kills herself. By the time Caligula hits his teenage years, he's watched his entire family get erased. And where is young Gaius during all this, living with Tiberius, on Capri, where the elderly emperor has retired to pursue hobbies? Here's what the histories say about Tiberius's time on Capri. The historian Suetonius, who loves gossip more than oxygen, claims Tiberius turned the island into a non-stop orgy palace. Swimming pools full of children he called minnows. Trained sex performers. Walls covered in explicit art. He'd watch people do things that would make modern porn sites flag you for review. Then he'd have people thrown off cliffs for not clapping enough. Now, is all of that true? Probably not. Suetonius writes 100 years later and has an axe to grind. But here's what is true. Tiberius leaves Rome in AD 26. He never comes back. And for 6 years, the teenage Caligula is his hostage, his heir, and his captive audience. Imagine growing up in that house. Your uncle-grandfather, maybe father murderer, is torturing people for fun. Every day you wake up wondering if today is the day he decides you're a threat. You smile. You nod. You pretend everything is fine. You learn to hide every honest emotion you have because showing your real face gets you killed. This is the education Caligula receives, not in statesmanship, not in law and survival, in pretending, in watching absolute power turn a human being into a monster and realizing there are no consequences for the monster. Tiberius finally dies in AD 37. The official story is natural causes. The unofficial story is the head of the Praetorian Guard smothers him with a pillow. Either way, Caligula becomes emperor at age 24, and for the first 8 months, he's amazing. Seriously, the histories all agree on this. He gives bonuses to the military. He cancels unfair taxes. He recalls exiles. He puts on incredible games. The people love him. The Senate loves him. He's the return of the Golden Age. Rome throws parties in the streets. Then he gets sick. AD 37, late summer. Caligula catches something. We don't know what: typhus, malaria, poisoning, bad shellfish, but he nearly dies. He's bedridden for weeks. And in that time, something breaks. When he emerges, the nice emperor is gone. In his place is someone who has realized the only thing standing between him and death is luck. And if luck is all that matters, then why pretend to care about anything? The horse consul isn't madness. It's the logical conclusion of a man who has seen the machinery of power up close and found it empty. Let's talk about Instability, the horse, Caligula's favorite. According to the sources again, written by senators who really hated this guy, Instability lived in a marble stable with an ivory manger. He wore purple blankets. Purple was the color of emperors. The horse had his own house, complete with furniture and slaves. He was fed oats mixed with gold flakes. Gold flakes. The horse was eating better than most provincial governors. But here's where it gets good. Caligula announced he was going to make Instability a consul. He started inviting the horse to dinner parties. He'd have conversations with it. He made senators compliment the horse's political opinions. Now pause and think about what's actually happening here. Caligula isn't insane in the medical sense. He's not hallucinating. He knows the horse can't govern. That's the point. He's taking the highest office in Roman government, a position that once belonged to Cicero, to Cato, to men who shaped history, and he's giving it to an animal. He's saying, you are all horses. Your titles mean nothing. Your traditions mean nothing. I am the only thing that matters. This is psychological warfare, and the Senate has no response because the Senate has no power. They can't say no. What are they going to do? Debate the horse's qualifications, argue that Instability lacks administrative experience. The horse consul plan never technically happened because Caligula was assassinated before he could formally appoint Instability. But here's what did happen. Caligula made senators run for miles alongside his chariot, in their fancy robes, in the dust. Like dogs, he forced them to fight as gladiators. He made them bid on his dinner leftovers. He openly slept with their wives and then described it to them the next morning. Every single thing he did was designed to humiliate the people who wrote history. And then he was shocked when they stabbed him. The other stuff, because there's always other stuff. Caligula declared war on Neptune, the god of the sea. Not a metaphor. He lined up his soldiers on the beach in Gaul, pointed at the water, and told them to attack. When they looked confused because they were Roman soldiers, not insane people, he ordered them to stab the waves with their swords and collect seashells as spoils of war. He took the seashells back to Rome as trophies. He built a lighthouse out of them. This is a real thing that happened. The most powerful military on earth spent an afternoon fighting the ocean and losing. He demanded worship as a living god. Not divine right worship, actual worship. He built temples to himself. He put his own statues inside Jewish temples in Jerusalem, which almost caused a full-scale rebellion. He referred to himself as Jupiter's equal. He'd show up to Senate meetings dressed as Venus, the goddess of love, complete with wig and makeup. And the senators would applaud. Because what else were they going to do? Say no. The last guy who said no got his entire family erased. Here's the thing about Caligula that nobody tells you. He also built things. The Aqua Claudia aqueduct, that's him. The Annio Novus, also him. He improved roads. He expanded the port at Rhegium. Ordinary Romans loved him because their water infrastructure got better, and the rich people looked miserable. The problem is that running an empire costs money, and Caligula spent like he had infinite money. When the treasury ran dry, he started extorting senators. He'd invent charges, confiscate estates, then throw parties with the proceeds. He auctioned off their wives. He taxed everything: prostitution, food carts, public toilets. There's a famous story that he set up a brothel in the palace and made senators' wives work there. By AD 41, the conspiracy was everywhere. Cassius Chaerea, a Praetorian Guard officer Caligula had been mocking for years, calling him names like soft and womanly, finally snapped. On January 24th, as Caligula walked through a tunnel under the palace, Chaerea and his men attacked. He was stabbed over 30 times. His wife Milonia Caesonia was murdered right next to him. His infant daughter Julia Drusilla, she was less than a year old, was grabbed by her legs and smashed against a wall. Pause 2:0. The Julio-Caesarian line ended in blood, a baby skull on Roman marble. And what happened next? The Senate, finally free of their tormentor, immediately tried to restore the Republic. They held debates. They drafted decrees. They were going to bring back the good old days when men were men and government meant something. Meanwhile, the Praetorian Guard found Caligula's uncle Claudius hiding behind a curtain. He was trembling. He stammered. He was the family idiot, the one everyone laughed at. The guard declared him emperor on the spot. Because the guard liked having an emperor. Emperors paid them. Senators didn't. The republic died in that tunnel, and the horse almost became a consul. And the man who wanted to make it happen got what he deserved. A legacy written entirely by the people he tortured. So, back to the question. How does a horse almost run the Roman Empire? The answer is that the Roman Empire was a costume. It was gold leaf over rot. Caligula saw through the costume when he was a teenager on Capri, watching his uncle-grandfather torture people and call it government. He spent 3 years trying to show everyone else the rot. He made senators run in the dust. He made soldiers stab the ocean. He tried to put a horse in charge, and the Senate killed him for it. Not because he was crazy, because he was right. The horse would have been the most honest consul Rome ever had. At least the horse never pretended to care.